it just comes back down, like I said, to grit and determination and just like not giving up.
Welcome to today's episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. We are privileged today to have Stephanie and Sheri with us, who are co-owners of their business. And why don't the two of you just introduce, or Sheri, introduce the business for us?
Sure. Well, thanks so much. It's so great to be here today. Fresh Communications is a public relations and marketing agency niched in the better for you space. So we exclusively represent brands that have a health value to offer consumers. So foods, beverage, and lifestyle brands.
I love that. And there's something pretty unique about the two of you. I think, Stephanie, you were telling me about it.
Yes, so we're both registered dietitians, and our team is made up of many registered dietitians as well. And that's by design. We felt that the PR industry was ready for an expert run agency to give that added value to better for you brands, where you know that you have your publicists are have the credentials and the food and nutrition background to be able to credibly and accurately talk about their products and about the industry and trends and whatnot.
To me, that's just so huge because if I always feel like it takes months just to get my agency in line with our speak, and that like I have to review everything and it's not quite there. And here you've got a team that could take it up a notch from what I've done and bring the PR side. So anyway, I think that's a great strategic play, really niche down into a spot. So cool. That's fun. What, how did the two of you get into this anyway? I mean, registered dietitians don't normally think, let's go do PR.
That's true. Well, I started I started in journalism and PR, and while I was on that journey, I was hungry for some expertise, and I was representing a handful of food companies. And during that time, I was actually building a health and wellness advisory council for Aubon Pan. And I met a registered dietitian, and I was like, "What is this?" I didn't, I had no idea that these credentials even existed at the time. And we got to talking, and she said, "You sound really passionate about health and wellness. Maybe have you ever thought about making that your career?" And I was young and ambitious. And I said, "Yes, I did. I am going to make that my career." So I went back to school and I got my master's degree at Boston University and became a registered dietitian. And from there, I realized that my background in communications and writing and PR was my edge. Not a lot of dietitians, specialize in this area. So I decided to, I was looking for a job that married the two, and I landed a job at the New England Dairy and Food Council as a nutrition communication specialist, and that's where I met Sheri. And I'll let you tell your story.
Yeah, I mean, I am a dietitian from the very beginning of my career. I always had a passion around communications and really liked to write and really liked to kind of use my skill set in that space. And so I secured a role as the school nutrition marketing manager at the Dairy Council, which is where Stephanie and I, we really led some school nutrition initiatives, some health and wellness initiatives. And we kind of realized that this skill set that we had to communicate sort of everything about milk, cheese, and yogurt really could go beyond milk, cheese, and yogurt and into kind of any category. And that was when there was a huge boom in the naturals and organic space. So we saw this huge increase in products out there that were all vying for a spot kind of on the shelf and in the cart. And they needed somebody that could help differentiate the product. And so we really started our company knowing that we could do that. We were uniquely positioned to do it, and we could help really uncover what a brand has to offer in terms of trends, nutrition recommendations, and what we can really do to make them stand out.
Yeah, and
Uh,
while we were there, we realized that we were kind of creating a lot of the work, right? Like we were having the ideas, and we wanted to make all these things happen. And so we one day were just like, "Hey, we should do something. We should do something on the side. Let's write a blog." And
Yeah.
then the blog turned into a company, and we were sitting in traffic on I-95 like, well, if we were going to run a company, like what would our company be called? Let's just throw out words. And then we threw out the word fresh, fresh ideas, fresh perspective, fresh foods. And we are like, there's no way Fresh Communications is available. Somebody has that name. And I looked it up. Sheri was driving. I pulled out my phone. I looked it up. I saw that it was available. And right there on the spot, I secured the name and I also bought the domain freshcommunications.com. And here we are.
That's fantastic. I love it. And like a lot of people, they go about saying, "Oh, let's start a business," and they think it's let's put together a business plan and let's do this and that. And but most of us, it was like that. There's this moment. Like, no, I'm moving. I'm moving right now. I don't know if you call it like an entrepreneurial moment of insanity or what it is. It gets us to just jump and do, but we're so glad we have.
Yeah,
Right?
I
We're so
totally
glad.
agree with that. We also both come from families that have lots of entrepreneurs. So I think that we just kind of threw on the rose colored glasses and we're like, we can do it. And even if it was the most naive thing ever, we just
Which it
never
was.
had that thought. Like, we were just like, we're going to do this. And we just did it.
Well, two of you are powerfully moving forward now, so we're excited about it. I love the start, and you know what? You've grown now. Like it's not just the two of you. You've added staff. You've built all of them around this. You've built clientele across the country, right? And just like you, you've hit this spot, and there's only like I think it's like 6% of companies right around there that even make it to a million in revenue in the U.S. So it's such a small little elite group in there. And now that you're here, what are some of the lessons you've learned recently? Like, oh, this has made a difference. I've got more complexity. I've got more stuff. This has made a difference for us. And maybe you could share with the rest of the audience a win or two and why.
Yeah. We'll have probably different answers to that. I'll start. I think that the thing that has kept us going is it really just comes back down to grit, determination, and unwavering optimism. Like we are both like just optimists to the core, and like we've been through some stuff. We when we first started our company in the first month of our company, we both ended up expecting our second child. We both had second children at the same time, and
Wow.
it was the first month we launched. We found out that that was happening. So the first year of our business, we were like, okay, well, we just started this business, and now our families are growing, and so there was that, and then we just kept going. We just kept going, just don't stop. And then, of course, we had the pandemic, and there was a lot of things that happened to us then. But Sheri like rolled up her sleeves, got us a grant, and like we just kept going. And things happen along the way that you don't see coming, and that put your business at risk, or they have the power to maybe let negative thoughts come into your mind, like maybe we're not going to be successful, maybe this was a bad idea, but we just do not let that happen. Just keep going, just keep having the faith that we're doing the right thing, keep learning, always be listening, always learn from your mistakes, and just keep an open mind, and to making strategy pivots when you have to. But I think really, like, it just comes back down, like I said, to grit and determination, and just like not giving up, keeping your eye on the goal.
I'm gonna hone in on the other piece that you said. The grit wasn't stubborn grit of I've got my way, I know it, and I'm moving. But you put listening and learning as the key right in the middle of your grit. It was to keep listening, to keep learning, to keep growing. Uh, I just think that's a key. Sometimes we think because we made it to a million, we must have figured something out. And the reality is we did in the past. But what's coming in the future requires the same thing. So what a nugget, right? How do you stay in that learning mode and keep pushing, Stephanie? How do you not get sort of stuck?
Well, I don't think I'm ever satisfied. Just I never, to be totally honest, in this safe space, like I don't ever feel accomplished. I always feel like there's needs to be more, or that there's something I don't know. And I think that in some ways is like a bit of a personality trait, but
Mm-hmm.
also I think that it's something you can learn along the way, to just the importance of an open mind, and to just keep reaching and dreaming big. And if you have your mind on that, and then listening just follows, because that's the way to grow. And that, we learn from our team all the time, and so I think it's that.
Yeah, I'll also just add that to some extent, our industry really requires that of us. So one of the things that we're steadfast on is maintaining our, up to the latest in science research and understanding all of the sort of nutrition trends and everything that goes along with being able to support our clients and maintaining our credentials as registered dietitians. So we're listening to the clients and to the team, but we're also listening to what science is telling us, because we're in this evolving sort of space of nutrition where we're constantly learning more. And so I think that we're kind of conditioned to be like that because it's required of us to really maintain our expertise.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And um, the not just for our customers but for our teams, not just from the outside but from the inside. It's just this always learning, always pushing. Sometimes it can get pretty heavy though, where the day-to-day demands, you almost find that you don't have the time to learn and listen as much as you'd like to. Do you ever see that, or is it just like, no, no, we just always do it, it's in the DNA?
We try to just build it in. I
Yeah.
think that the key is to overcoming some of those sticking points is to build it in to what you're doing already. So for example, one of the things that we instituted the second that our team started to grow and everyone became remote was a weekly team meeting. And it's this really interesting sort of unique setup that we have where we really want the team to feel like they're friends and they're connected. So we start by a round robin and just share what's going on in our personal lives, what our fun, weekend plans are, and that kind of thing. And then we go into sharing, anything interesting that we've read in the industry that's related, anything that's on our mind for client work that we either need support on, or we offer up bandwidth if we're finding that we have a little bit of freedom and free space to support other teams, other team members. So I think that we've sort of built it into a few different touch points with the team that makes it a little bit easier. And then also we try and stay up to speed on everything so that we can share it with our clients too. So if a study comes out related to gut health and we're representing a brand that's really got a lot to offer in that space, we want to know that we want them to know that we're completely up to date and that they have that information so that we can act on it and maintain relevance. So I think it's just kind of rolled in.
Yeah, and
I,
to build on that, we also dedicate resources
Mm-hmm.
to our team learning, taking courses or belonging to groups or
Conferences.
conferences.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a lot of we stress the importance of learning and staying up to speed on all the science and trends with our team as well, and we put resources toward it.
I I love that, because a lot of times we think, well, it's just the kind of people, it's just the way we are, but that doesn't last as we keep growing. And you have found a way to build it in. You've set aside time and space, and there's a little genius thing you're doing. You're like, oh yeah, we just kind of do round robin talking. What's happening is you're getting their mouths moving, and then you're going into the learning, and they're like, oh, I'm already talking, and I'm going to keep sharing, and I better know some stuff because we are all expected to share. And then you're funding that learning. I can't tell you how many small business owners, not necessarily the ones that are pushing for fast growth, but are like putting along, that say to me, you know, invest so much in my people and they just leave me, right? And I'm training my competition up. But your guys' attitude is the right one, where it's like, well, even worse, what if I don't invest in them and they stay? Right? We're just dead in the water. So I love what you do there. Thanks so much. And Sheri, did you have another little nugget to share? I mean, this was kind of Stephanie's kicked this one off. What was your perspective?
What I think is really interesting is that we always strive to learn a lot about each project that we take on, each successful campaign that we execute. So we're really mindful of what worked really well, what could be improved upon, the kind of start, stop, continue model of evaluating our work. And one thing that really has kept me personally going, and I think that Stephanie also shares this, is that we're continually validated on our concept. Like, people appreciate that we come at this public relations stuff at a completely different perspective, from a completely different perspective, from a health professional speaking to a health conscious consumer. We do it differently, and that's really contributed to our success. I mean, we've been part of three, maybe even four acquisitions now, and we've been the only agency to stay on board when a larger company comes in and acquires our client. And there's a reason for that. And then when, everybody gets dispersed, as does happen during acquisitions, we're brought into new brands. And that has been the biggest contributor to our growth.
Definitely.
Is our former clients bringing us to new brands that they work for, in that word of mouth model, because people, once they experience it and the difference, they get it, and that's really validating. As, like, this is our baby, or one of our babies. We have a lot of babies. This is our baby, and I love hearing that over and over again. It totally energizes me, and I think the whole
Yeah,
team feels that. you know
definitely. Yeah.
so yeah, so I think that's really kind of been like a driving force behind our growth and our sort of maintaining the level of enthusiasm and energy behind what we do, because we just believe in it so strongly, and we've seen it validated over and over.
Well, and I'm going to unpack it just a little bit in case the others didn't connect. I mean, the how tightly niched down you are, and you've gotten to a point that you're saying we're not a PR firm. We are. We're a PR firm, sure, but it's not a service as our main thing. We have a service, but instead you have a customer intimacy, a deep knowledge play that you lean in. So when you're out there saying, working with us is the highest quality PR work you can get in your space, and possibly the easiest to work with too. Like, we're going to win in two major differentiators because we know it, we get it, we can move forward, and we don't do PR for a construction company. We don't do PR for an oil rig company. We don't do PR for an IT company. We do PR for um, for I almost said like nutraceuticals, but healthy foods, right? Like, how do we get this nutrition side? We do PR for those that are wanting to lead in the healthy living space in nutrition. That's tight, and most of us at a million are still too general.
Yeah.
Okay, because we went chasing a lot of revenue. You skipped a step of wandering in the wilderness, as I like to call it, where we chase whatever revenue. We're like serving anyone and everyone. And then we start to narrow down in. And it takes us a while to get there. But the rest of us can learn from this and say, okay, how do we niche down in and get tighter? Because that took you from 0 to 1 million fast, right? You moved there quickly because of that niche market. And now your team, you know exactly what to train them on. Your processes are tighter than everybody else's. The onboarding is easier, right? The delivery is simpler because we get tighter. And maybe you could get tighter still. I don't know, um, but what a move! And it is, the market validates it, and that's exciting. And that's what you guys are feeling. Like, I still
Yeah.
feel passionate because every time someone turns around, they're like, no way am I going to leave Fresh Communications. This is the best of the best. We're staying here. I love that. Absolutely love that.
Yeah, I hope so.
And yet there's still hard things. We get some things right. We have some things right. Oh, now I've got to learn the new thing. Uh, in fact, as businesses grow, we always have to keep shifting gears, like on a bicycle pedaling along. And we're like, okay, I've maxed out the formula I've been running that worked so well in the past. And now I'm here and I'm pedaling away and I'm not moving as fast as I'd like to, or as joyfully as I would like to. You can see the person huffing and puffing up the mountainside in the wrong gear. Uh, what's it like for you now? And what are some of the challenges you're facing as you're at the next stage in your business?
Yeah. One thing that we're focused on is the size of our projects that we bring on. When we first started out, it was much like you just said, like, okay, yes, we were niche down and we had a very specific clientele, but the projects we were open to accepting anything just to, bring in some revenue, build up some case studies, make, put ourselves on the map. But we realized pretty quickly that you can't grow a company with small projects. So we had to get comfortable being uncomfortable, saying no to certain projects that where the revenue, it was too small for, we're a smaller team, we only have so much time, so we're really moving now toward bigger projects. We have a higher minimums, and we have to say no more than I ever thought. As a business owner, we would have to turn, you don't go into this thinking I'm going to turn business away one day, but we do have to do that because um, we think, the only way to grow past, where we're at now and, get to that next level is to bring on these bigger, more meaningful, longer term projects. And so that's what we're working on. And I think like that can be a little bit of a struggle sometimes because I often think, marketing or PR, I think a lot of times people think that that's just a nice to have service, but it's not. It's a must have service. And so I think that we're right now trying to refine our messages and, help, the industry see how important this service is and how necessary it is, especially in today's media landscape, and then simultaneously bring on those bigger projects because that's what we think anyway. We think that that's what's going to help us get to that next level. But yeah, open to thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'll just add that one of the things that we really had for like in terms of aha moments around Stephanie's point is that it takes us the exact same amount of time to onboard a small project and to get the team up to speed on it as it does a much bigger project. And with the tight bandwidth, we have 10 people on our team. With the tight bandwidth that we have, we really have to be smart about our most valuable resource, which is the team's time.
Mhm.
So I think that is sort of the like moment where we said, okay, no more small projects because it does take us the same amount of time essentially to get it up and running as the bigger projects
And but it's tough to say no because sometimes the smaller project is
turn into bigger. Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
gateway
Mm,
into a bigger
yeah.
partnership because
that's right.
people want to, nobody wants to marry you on the first date, and so they need to see what we can do, and we're open to that. But so it takes this little, like, it takes a little intuition to know
Mm-hmm.
when there's a smaller project that could get bigger, and when it's not going to
Yeah,
go anywhere.
we've
And
made that mistake
yeah.
more than once, and that's okay though because we learn from it. But we have definitely sort of, I think it's a balance between sort of saying no and saying yes too quickly. It's yeah.
It can be really challenging, and PR is in one of those spaces where the little guys, they they need some sort of attention, they need visibility, right? So they stay little because they don't get the good stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and challenging,
Yeah.
especially because those were our roots. Those are the people that got us here in the first place, right? And saying no to that can be painful. Um, when do you take time as a team, the two of you plus maybe a few others? It could be all of them. You've got 10 people. When do you take time as a team to look at the strategic landscape and what's shifting around you and your customers and how to best position yourself so that your day-to-day operations can align with it? But how does that look for your group?
So it is a little bit tricky with a spread out team. And it's interesting because Stephanie and I are, have been working. Our team is relatively young, right? So our most of our experience has been in an in-person work environment, whereas a lot of the team has had a good chunk of their career in a remote world. And so for us, it is really important, I think, to bring the team together. So we try about 4 times a year to kind of have these in-person meetups. We host them usually here in Boston, and we try to really focus the content on things that we think the team could benefit from, including kind of some of the trends, some of the sort of challenges that we encounter with client management, and kind of a bunch of those types of things so that we are all together and we're experiencing that. We brainstorm in person and we have those moments. And then one of those meetings is at the end of the year, which is a strategic planning meeting for the
Yeah.
next year. And so we use that. It's usually in November to talk about anticipated food nutrition trends for the coming year, key projects from the past year, what we want to do more of going forward, things that need to be tweaked, and we kind of unpack it and we do it with the whole team. We
Okay.
want everybody to have a sense of ownership in what we're doing, and they have just great ideas. It would be foolish for us to leave them out. We just adore this team so much, and they bring such interesting ideas to the table and energy, and they all have their own perspective. It just, I feel like it wouldn't be as good if we didn't have everybody involved, and we're lucky because one of the benefits of having a small team is that you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I I like that you've got this pattern pulling people together, and that you're actually taking time to say we've got to figure out a new way. Uh, Underneath your question of saying, hey, we need to shift who we're serving or change that focus, normally means we were growing along and then we stopped growing at the same rate, or we were growing but the profit started to decrease. What were you guys facing, and how long was it affecting you? Were you
Well,
facing like revenue started to kind of do up, down, up, down?
so it actually was more like up and stay at the same spot.
You
And
shot up and then
we had
held solid.
very, very fast growth. In
How
one
long
year,
have you been? How long have you been at the same spot?
we started in 2016.
Do you mean how long have we been on the plateau? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
About 2 years.
yeah, two.
two
Yeah,
years.
about 2 years on that. And your team's been working on some strategic things during that time, and you haven't seen a shift yet. Is that right?
Well, I think if we're being honest, it's probably really 1 year because we noticed this is sort of the second year of us noticing it. So we're in the throes of kind of unpacking it this year, I would
Hmm.
say,
Yeah.
because 2021 was a huge year for us, a huge year for us. And then 2022, our profitability kind of increased, but our revenue decreased a little bit. And the reason is because what we ended up doing was we did fewer projects that were in a space where money was flowing through us essentially as opposed to coming to us. And so that's another sort of key learning. We're trying to bring on more clients that are truly PR, that all of the fees or most of the fees are coming to us as an agency as opposed to being used, as a cost of goods sold. So there's been kind of like a little bit of back and forth related to that. The profitability has been going up a little bit, but the revenue
The
came down.
revenues come
Yeah.
down. So kind of feeling that and saying, why is that changing? Did you during that time also, well, profitability has been going up. You had the same team going. You probably didn't add a bunch to the team. So it really was just like, why is revenue not there where we want it? What's the, what's, why not just stay? Why not just stay at the size you are right now? You have profits going up, didn't have to do extra work. What's the drive for your growth to you? I mean, most of us entrepreneurs have a reason for it, but I'm just curious
So
where
many more
yours is.
people to help and work with and fun to be had. I don't know. I feel like
Well, we have a
there's,
goal, right?
yeah.
We have a goal. We said when we started this company, we said to ourselves, we want to grow this to an eight-figure company,
Okay,
and that's what
we
we
want to
want.
pass we want to pass 10 million. We want to
We
get up
do.
there and move and grow this,
Exactly.
and something's slowing us down, and then there's this eating away. Why? 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 Right now we got to figure it out and where we go with it. Okay, and then when you're looking at your trends and your teams together now, so there's a big reason. In fact, the reason is like $10 million reason for us to fix this and not stay at this size. And it's our hopes, it's our ambitions, it's what we wanted to do. It's fun. We want to bring more team members be a part of this really cool thing. So I get it. Now you're going there. Um, when you're pulling that team together and you're talking about trends, what areas of trends are you looking at? If you categorize them.
Well, I think so, the trends to us are two different things. When we bring the team together and we're talking about nutrition trends and things in the industry for the following year to help inform our strategies, we're talking about ways of eating. We're talking about what the newest types of products. So, like for example, a few
Okay.
years ago, gluten free became a really big trend.
Yeah, so
Then,
trends within the actual service space,
right,
not necessarily trends in the market that are affecting you or trends that are affecting your customers. Rather, you're looking at trends that affect your customers' customers, right? Like the
right.
nutrition shifts and what they ought to be looking at and how you may position towards, which is solid, great stuff, but it's like technical expertise
Mhm.
trends that you're looking at, right?
Right.
Uh, it may help to look at other trends too. And we can dive into, I know that your presenting question was, hey, we're thinking just go to bigger accounts and that's our solution where we go. And you may be 100% right. And I want to look at and say, are we taking into account some of the other trends that may inform ways for us to compete differently and win more business with less time or whatever? So, so in that quarterly review, there can be a lot of value in taking your team, or the annual one, the quarterlies are like check ins, but taking your team through a simple little SWOT analysis where you say, here's our strengths, here's our weaknesses. Really, let's be very clear, and so that we know what we can leverage and what things we may need to fix. And I just say may because there's a lot of weaknesses that aren't worth fixing, right? It's like, yeah, it's not that important. So, and then there's these opportunities and threats, and this is where I like to use some trends. I'll use one where I'll walk through, and I use a little acronym called the speed of change. I use the T on the, and then speed, SPEED. So technological changes, social, political, environmental, economic, and demographic, the speed. And saying, are there any shifts that are happening that can affect the PR world or that could be affecting the customers market, that if we were to see where they're heading to, we can in essence skate to where the puck is going instead of where it's at today? Are there any shifts? Are there any things, or have things been done in other industries that may even seem old hand, but in our industry it could be kind of new? People haven't been thinking about it. So, and ideas that may spur from it could be things like, hey, there's some technological shifts going on right now. In fact, we can feed into AI our solutions, our way of talking and being, all the blogs we've written, we can just feed it all the blogs, a little setup thing, and then it can spit out some basic formulaic things like, oh, here's some good writing around it, here's some good things, here's some good stuff that could serve smaller clients on a product level basis instead of a service level, and potentially grow them and say, you can buy package A and grow up a little bit. Package B, that's the premium stuff, or C is the luxury side, but something that could grow and perhaps have very little effort to take care of a lot of people at a low cost as we grow them up. There's technological shifts. There's demographic kind of shifts out there in talent, and people able to use and access people that are all over the world that we could train up and could be just as powerful and really great at what they're doing and making great money in their location while doing lower end cost service work for a lower end group. Demographic shifts. And I don't know, are these kinds of things you guys are considering and talking about when you look at your strategic directions?
Not yet.
I mean, to an extent, I think
No.
like what like direct to consumer. So like there have been changes in the way people buy food in recent
Yeah.
years that we've really embraced and has changed the way that we do our work. So direct to consumer purchasing, when the pandemic hit and everybody needed to have an online store,
Mm.
brands really realized if they didn't have a relationship with their consumers and they were relying on subsequent on peripheral industries like hospitality, for example, when every hospital when every hotel and restaurant was shut down, they realized they didn't have that line to consumers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, and then sort of the carryover effect from the pandemic in terms of people continue to buy groceries more online or more through third party, channels like Instacart than they did pre-pandemic, and that impacts things like affiliate marketing and then
Yeah.
the link in the value of the link back to a customer's website. So I think that I would
You,
agree that we don't do it as much as we could, but we ought, but we do it. And I think
yeah.
that we've been in a little bit of a luxurious space in the sense that most of our clients are not driving direct to consumer; they're mostly driving grocery purchasing. But we have to be very aware of that evolution and be able to represent clients who are rooted in getting the direct to consumer sale. So yeah, that's one
Yeah, it's
area we've
interesting
evolved.
because it feels like it's not purposeful though. We don't like it. We just learn about
Mm.
it as we go. And so another example is we pay very close attention to the media landscape and how in PR our job is to serve as a resource to journalists, and so we need to better understand what are they looking for, what is going to help our clients earn media coverage, affiliate marketing is one of those. Amazon is a big one. So just making sure that we're staying on top of like understanding how that all works together. But we don't schedule a specific meeting to say, okay, like let's look here at all of these trends and these new things that are happening and think about how that can impact our business and the way that we change strategy, which I think it's a great idea. And I love the idea of doing this once or twice a year with the whole team and going through the SWOT and really like putting some pen to paper on next steps for growing based on these learnings. It's a great idea.
I think you've already got the infrastructure, the rhythm built in, and now it's a matter of just space on the agenda of that one meeting.
Yeah.
And after you've kind of really thought and chewed on everything, I would take it one step further and have the team come up with the key questions. If we could solve, how do we do this? How do we achieve this given these obstacles that we have? We have limited time. We
Yeah.
haven't done this before. Da 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 da. How would we do this? If they can each pull in some questions, the right question is what we need first, not the right answer. Right. And so here we've laid it all out. Now get the team to come up with the right question, and they can brainstorm. They can all put up all their questions. You can talk about them. You can collapse some that fit together. You can vote on them. You can do all sorts of things to really pull out and say, we're going 8 figures because we want to have this impact on the industry. And we want all of us to do these really cool things together. Now, what if we solve that problem would help us move more that direction this year than anything else? What's the big thing? And, and then solving for that, then you can identifying the question, then your team can solve that question, and it will help strategically align you so that you don't suffer. Maybe you two don't, maybe the two of you are a good balance with each other, but a lot of us entrepreneurs, we have a lot of ideas and we go all sorts of directions, and the team doesn't always love it. And it can be really helpful to get tight and to get tight around, we're saying powerfully yes to this and no to these other things because of that strong yes. That may be a help. Sorry, I know that was a bit of a direction pull, and the only reason was is I didn't want us to get too fast to the solution. Is always bigger is better, which it might be. You may have the right answer. Now that we're in this bigger, if you guys do start shifting that direction, which I think is can be a very powerful thing, it's normally led because you have a really good process to take people through to get it nailed. And that process takes just as long for a $8,000 job as it does for an $80,000 job, right? And the management of it takes just as much time. It's really overhead burden that kills us through that little bit. And so I love the wisdom behind it. I think that that's a tried and proven path for service companies to grow and continue to do, is to focus in even tighter. And if it's larger, fine. If you have enough case studies of it, terrific. Got enough proof, then we can go ahead and move with that and say, let's get clear around that could be your strategy. Then we do the SWOT around that. And we say, now with what's moving, how do we use, how do we go and win? What do we have to build strengths wise in our business? Or what strengths we already have that we just need to leverage? We need to use them better and wiser through technology, through better training, through better collaboration with the customer, whatever it is, to leverage that in order to go after our new strategic market. So again, we could do this practice top level, should we do this? Or we could do the practice, that same thing on the quarterly basis, saying, in order to move forward in line with that strategy, given the shifts out there, how can we win? And that probably help you step forward just a little more powerfully as you overcome this minor plateau you're in right now. Our time's coming. It's up. But I want people to be able to get in touch with you, because like I'm thinking I ought to just start a business like this now that I know exactly who could do the PR and get some flow going. Like this would be an easy business to go with. How would people contact Fresh Communications if they wanted to get in touch with you?
Sure. They can email us. They can email us at team@freshcommunications.com or Stephanie at freshcommunications.com or Sheri at freshcommunications.com.
Fantastic. And that's Stephanie IE and Sheri I, just so people are listening. So Stephanie and Sheri. at freshcommunications.com. That wraps up today's episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. We're just so grateful. Stephanie and Sheri, thank you so much for coming, sharing, opening up a little bit, and just being on this journey with us.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you, David.
For all of you listening in, do whatever it takes, share, like, whatever, get it to other seven-figure business owners so we could continue to grow and learn together. Keep striving, keep learning, keep caring. Until next time.